I'm going to be annoying for the people who watch this interstate because I'm probably going to wander around and you're going to have to follow me, but anyway. Cool, so introduction to ATEC. First of all, I just wanted to explain a bit about basically professional associations. So professional associations, peak industry bodies, call it what you will, basically groups of like-minded individuals who come together to lobby, to advocate, to create connections, do business to business, and really enhance the industry within which they work and get better connected. So within tourism, there's heaps of them. I'm sure you can all know you've got the TICs, the AHA, the RTOs, all of those guys are basically collections of like-minded individuals who have come together to work towards a better cause. So the difference of us in this big world of tourism is that we focus primarily on, well, only on the inbound tourism industry. So people coming into the country who want to have a great experience, that's our core business, and we work with the suppliers and the ITOs to make sure that this happens. Back in 1972 when we started, we were called the Inbound Tour Operators Association. This was back when only ITOs could be members, so it was only formed of ITOs, no supplier members, nothing like that. Back in 2000 we realised that we were actually servicing more than just the ITOs. We had a heap of suppliers that wanted to get engaged. So back then we turned our name to the Australian Tourism Export Council, which when you're saying to people it's where you work, people have no clue whatsoever. As a peak industry body, we represent the entire sector. We work closely with the federal and the state and territory governments, and also the STOs like DNSW and also the guys at TA. Our services include a range of the B2B opportunities. We do a lot of advocacy and development work, heaps of industry education, a lot of B2B networking, and some major conferences, along with things like this, the National Development Program. So we've got our head office based over on Clarence Street. There's about 8 of us working there full time across distribution, development, comms. My team, has everyone met Jess? In events, member servicing. And with that, we've also got a branch manager in each state. So their role is to be on the ground, meeting with members, finding out what the local issues are, servicing the members within that region. And then at head office, we sort of make sure that everything is spinning along and working properly. We've also got a national board made up of industry professionals. They meet about every quarter to talk about sort of the big level strategy of what ATEC's doing. We've got 7 branches across the country, so we've got 1 in each state, 2 in NT because there's Top End and Central, 2 in Queensland because there's TNQ and SEQ. And with most of them come a ATEC committee as well. So most of them have got a ATEC branch chair, like Kinyat here, and then a committee. So I think from the New South Wales committee we've just got Yvonne up the back. Really good people to meet if you've got the time. I'm sure they're always looking for people to help out with various things. Great way to network, great way to get involved. So, you know, like I sort of implore upon you as you take on this journey to get involved with things like that. Great way to meet people. So at ATEC, we represent more than 800 members. About 80% of them are suppliers, about 20% ITOs. And they cover everything from the likes of Accor and the Mantra Groups, Bridge Climb, Toga, Silver Needle, down to the little SMEs in regional locations. So it's very diverse membership, and it's always hard to get everything right because it's so diverse. But one of the main things that we do is basically bring those people together to product their package with the ITOs so that we can sell it offshore. The industry employs over 500,000 Australians, which is, I find that amazing, that 1 in nearly 50 people actually works in the tourism industry. Because not everyone, I mean, before I started ATEC, I don't think I really knew that many people, but now when I think about it, they're actually people that you come across working in service sectors that are still part of tourism. And it's amazing, it's worth like $30 billion to the Australian economy. It's actually the 3rd largest export after iron and coal. Like that's actually what we're generating for this country. It's pretty incredible. Cool, so as I was saying guys, our members, ITOs and OTAs. So anyone tell me what the difference between an ITO and an OTA is? Lorena is going to know, but that's almost cheating because you're a mentor. Anyone else? Give it a go? Nah? Glenn, up the back.
Online travel agent.
Yes. Yeah. So an ITO is an inbound tour operator, an OTA is an online travel agent. Basically they're doing the same thing, they're packaging the product. The difference being that an OTA is someone like your Flight Centre, Orbitz, those sort of guys. So they're doing a lot of their business online versus the ATS Pacific and that sort of thing, who are doing things from their office somewhere in Australia. Then we've also got the suppliers, like I was talking about, accommodation, tour companies, attractions. The whole range of people who work within this industry can be members of ATEC. And then we've also got a small section, which is the professional service suppliers. So those guys are people that are sort of on the periphery of tourism, people involved in immigration, accountants, legal firms, insurance, people who've got a product that is relevant to an ATEC member, but also can provide ATEC with advice on things that it might impact on the industry that we wouldn't otherwise be aware of. So as I was saying, a lot of the stuff that we do is about connecting product. It's all about B2B networking, engaging with ITOs and also other suppliers to work out how your product is comparing with the rest of the marketplace. We host a full calendar of events along with things like the National Development Program. We've got Meeting Place coming up. Anyone ever been to Meeting Place or heard about Meeting Place? Or yeah, cool. So that's ATEC's biggest event, where we get together about 80 to 100 ITOs, tabletop workshops. Everyone's got 10-minute speed dating appointments where you're trying to promote your product and talk about the differences. And then the full day of conferencing where we look at really high-level sort of strategy things. And then there's always a kick-ass dinner on the last night. We also have an online directory of ATEC members, which is really good for when you're starting out and you want to know which ITOs are working in different markets or which ATEC members are based in your region. You can actually search all of that through our member directory. And one of the things that we're doing as part of this program is that tomorrow you'll get an email from us and you'll give a login to the website. So once you've got the login, have a look around, look at who the other members are, see all the contact details, and just get a bit more of an idea of the breadth of the industry within which we work and the breadth of people involved within ATEC. We've also got a whole range of industry education. Has anyone here done the China Ready workshops or heard about the ones that we've run? Yeah, a couple? These, as we all know, since I started 10 months ago, everyone is talking about China. China. We're all going to survive on China, I think. But one of the courses we're running at the moment, which has been hugely successful, is welcoming Chinese visitors. And it's about getting your product ready, knowing if it's actually good for the Chinese market, service ready and sales ready. So working out where you should be doing your sales and marketing within China, and then working out, once they're here, how you should be servicing them, what their expectations are, and all that sort of stuff. We've also got a great online session that's absolutely free for members. You guys can all take it as well. It's all about energy efficiency and sustainable practice. It's just a really good thing to be aware of how you can market your product and also save costs by putting in a few simple tools to try and become more energy efficient. And we also do these export ready sessions sort of around the country for a lot of the RTOs and the regional guys, just so that they understand what it's like to engage within the international marketplace. One of the main things we do as well, like I was talking about earlier, the policy and advocacy. So we have heaps of meetings. We sit on industry panels all over. I think TA's got about 6 different panels that we sit on looking at different markets. We sit on heaps of the government advisory boards like Tourism Research Australia and that sort of thing, so that we're really in touch with what's happening and provide feedback. And then we've also got 2 of our own panels looking at specific issues. One of them is looking at backpacker youth tourism and sort of how we engage within that marketplace, which Emma, you've probably had a little bit to do with Julian. Julian, who's YHA, is the chair of the BITAP panel. Oh no, he's not anymore. He's on the BITAP panel. And then we've also got the Regional Tourism Task Force, which is looking at ways of increasing dispersal to regional areas, because I just don't think people are getting there. They come to a capital city and they go to another capital city, but they're not doing anything in between. So they're 2 of our main regions that we're working on at the moment. Going to open it to questions so I can have a glass of water. Does anyone have anything they want to ask?
What about the other Asian markets like Japan and Korea, and rather than just focusing on China, how important are the other Asian markets to Australia?
Well, in terms of that, we always tell everyone try and be involved in as many markets as you can. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. But in terms of actually answering that question and giving you a really in-depth answer, it's really not my area. But I know that you guys are having market updates and you've got someone coming in talking about Asia in a couple of weeks, I believe. So those guys will go into a lot more detail about what's happening in different segments and how you should be really aware of the changes. Because we're talking about China now, in 5 years we'll be talking about Brazil, and 2 years after that we'll be talking about Russia. Like, it's a big curve. but then you've also got to make sure you're still on top of your Western markets. So anyway, that's your guys' job, not mine. Cool, so what I wanted to talk about really is, this is one of the presentations we always focus on, is how do you get your product export ready? What are the key trends? What's happening within this marketplace? So 3 things that we all need to be really aware of is the outbound market out of Australia. Because the AUD's been so strong, everyone's gone offshore. Like everyone here, everyone just had their last holiday offshore because we can now. It's pretty amazing to see though that it's gone up by 5.5 million over 8 years. Like last year, like 2004, 2.5 million people went offshore. Now, 8 million people that's a third of Australia's population that are holidaying overseas. Domestic market, because of that, is suffering. It's being soft. We are seeing some turnaround, and regional dispersal is suffering as well. People aren't staying as long in the regional areas, and that's mostly around the fact that people are going offshore. So the inbound market, like I said before, it's worth $30 billion to our economy. And last year we had 6.3 million short-term visitors, which is pretty incredible. What we'd obviously like to see is more people coming in than going out. But once we've got that balance, we're really onto a good thing. Just wanted to ask as well, do you guys all sign up to the TA Essentials? Do you all get the weekly email from TA? If you don't, it's a really good resource. It's free, you can sign up on the website, I believe, you can subscribe. Comes out once a week. It's just a really good snapshot of what's happening within the industry, what TA are doing in terms of campaigns, but it's also got all the stuff about quarterly market updates, information on who's coming in, where they're coming from, all that sort of stuff. And also the TRA website. So the TRA website is tra.gov.au, and it's actually the government website for all the research that's involved within tourism. So it's got all the data that you get from the international visitors surveys. It's got all this stats on the Asian visitors and who's coming in and that sort of thing. Great resource for that sort of stuff. And it's just really good to have a working knowledge of where these people are coming from and how they're impacting and the trends so that you can understand how it works with your product. Cool, so as we were talking about, key trends, emergence of Asia. There's been a massive shift from west to east. Heaps of people out there now really educating everyone on the China market. There's obviously growth in the other Asian markets, which we'll get touched on in a couple of other weeks. And one of the main things about this is that it's because of some of the low-cost carriers that we've got coming in now. Like things like AirAsia X, Scoot, even Jetstar now, because they'll start flying out of Hong Kong soon. They're all making Australia much more accessible. And what we hear is that people coming from Asia, they want to have their first overseas experience. They want to have their first Western experience. They come to Australia because it's still in the Asia Pacific. They still feel comfortable with it. And it's also still, the time zone's not too crazy, so they can still call mum and dad back home. It's one of the main things. They get this experience, they get comfortable, and then they go off and look at like the US and the UK and that sort of thing. Cool, so this is just another interesting slide, like movements. It's pretty amazing that 20 years ago, this is what I was talking about, don't put all your eggs in one basket. 20 years ago, Japan was worth 21% of visitors coming into this country. 20 years later, it's now down to 6%. So that's why it's really important to have a really holistic strategy in terms of where you're going to market, because these things are going to change and you've got to understand the variances and work out where your product fits. Even things like, check it out, 20 years ago, anyone see China? 15 years ago, anyone see China? Wasn't until 2000 they started coming, and now in 2010 they're up to 8%. By 2020, they're going to be our largest visitor. So it's really interesting just to look at where people are coming from, and then knowing the consistent markets. So UK, NZ, USA, don't drop out of those markets. You've got to make sure you're really aware still that they're going to continue coming. You're going to see the growth from the other areas, but you've got to make sure you've got a consistent message for those guys as well. Cool, looking at also key trends, research and planning. I mean, I think as we all know, online now has become the basis for all research. Heaps of people do it now. The emergence of user-generated content and the reviewing product is also massive. Things like TripAdvisor, people who've got their own blogs, all that sort of stuff now. It's really changed the world in which we now operate. There's the word of mouth and the ease of access to this stuff is incredible. Even things like social networking. I mean, we all go on holidays, we put photos up on Facebook, we see our friends lying beside a beautiful beach, we want to know where it was, and then we think about starting to go to that place. So it's all that sort of stuff that you really got to think about. And like one of the things that I'd say is when you get back to your office tomorrow, saying Google your product, see what people are saying about it. Don't just look at TripAdvisor, look at what the people who've got their own blogs are actually writing about your product, because that's what someone else is seeing when they Google your product. And that might be like what they think about your product based on that. You're always going to see things like TripAdvisor, because it's going to, and the guys like Destination New South Wales, because they've got good SEO levels, so they're going to come up first. But then have a little look down at what might be, 9 or 10 on the Google page and see what someone's actually saying about the experience they had. So another thing we need to be aware of is the international competition, what the other destinations are doing and how they're competing for the same people that we're competing with. Other destinations at the moment are really outspending Australia in terms of their marketing and their investment. And one of those things is that a lot of other countries now are building amazing facilities and bidding for conferences and events, and they're winning this business away from Australia, basically. One thing that I think we need to look at, and it's interesting to have some of the guys from the investment team at TA here, because I think we're probably all aware that we've sort of rested on our laurels a bit after the Olympics. There's no new investment for a while. We sort of rode that wave of people coming in and used that word of mouth from the experience. And since then, we really haven't had a lot of new builds. So it'll be interesting to see what the team is coming up with and what we start seeing. And obviously, Barangaroo down at New South Wales, down at Sydney, is going to help with sort of bringing in a new investment, but there's not a lot of long-term strategy behind that. Also, when we go overseas, labour's a lot cheaper, especially in a lot of the Asian countries and the emerging markets. And obviously, with that, it doesn't cost you as much. So you can get cheaper accommodation, you can get cheaper services, and that means that you can basically have the same holiday but for not as much money. And that's one of the things in Australia, because we've got all the workplace relations, costs are high, and then on a Sunday you're getting paid double time and all that sort of stuff. So that creates a higher cost for our visitor. Cool, so why target international? We've talked about this already, but it's worth $30 billion. That's one of the reasons you should target it. If you're not in it, you're not going to get a slice of that pie. So, oh, that's fancy. Look at that. So these are some reasons why you should basically get involved in this market. One, heaps of people know about Australia. Like heaps of people see it. They see it on shows like Oprah and Ellen. They hear about it from their family and friends who have visited. So actually, a lot of people have got a really strong desire to come here, and we just need to make sure we get that conversion. But we're pretty lucky, especially with the work that TA does and the STOs, because we don't have to tell people what Australia is. They know it. They already want to come here. We've just got to get them actually onto the planes and through the door. Another reason we talked about earlier was because outbound's so strong, your domestic markets are flat, therefore you've got to be in the international market to try and get some more of that revenue that's available. The inbound market growth forecasts are really good. Tourism 2020's strategy, which I hope you all know about, and if you don't, write it down, Tourism 2020, it's a great document to look at. Shows that the forecasts that we're looking at for growth are going to be great, and looking at the areas, really important that you're on top of that. And this is one of the things I think is really important, is that international visitors, they're not here for the weekend or during the school holidays. They'll do bridge climb on a Wednesday, they'll stay in your properties on a Tuesday night, they'll do all of this stuff, especially in the regional areas, which normal domestic traveller, they want to do a weekend trip, they might say the Friday night or the Monday night, or they're going to come in the school holidays. So it's a great place, it's a great way to actually leverage some of your capacity with the organisation that you work for. Okay, cool. Basically what I put up here is the different travel styles within which you can, the paradigm of within which we work. So group inclusive tours, fully independent travellers, business travellers, partially packaged traveller, VFR, education, special interest, backpacker and youth. I'm actually going to throw this one out to you guys, and just if you want to just get into like little groups of 4, just have a chat about what each of these mean to you and what they mean to your business. Think about this. Think about who actually comes to your product and where you may be marketing your product. So if you just want to jump into groups of 4, think about the areas with it. Are you doing groups? Are you doing guys on their own? Are you trying to target the business traveller? great person to target. He spends $700 a night versus your average leisure traveller who spends $300 a night. VFR, people who are coming into the country to see their friends and family, and then are going to do some attractions on the side and that sort of thing. We'll just wind up. Basically with this, I'm not going to ask you to go around and report back on what you said. It's just something good just to think about and discuss with other people, like the markets that you're in and what you're looking at. Also a great thing to talk with your mentors about, like just working out which areas that they're involved in, who they sort of recommend going after, which areas are more lucrative than others and that sort of stuff. So roles of agents, basically what we were talking about before, there's ITOs and there's OTAs, but then there's also wholesalers. So the wholesaler is the guy at the end of the line who provides a link between the retail travel agents and also the ITOs and the suppliers. So basically, generally the wholesaler is in the country of origin where the person's coming from. So someone coming from the States, the wholesaler generally will be in the States, and then they then engage with an ITO who's based in the country where they're coming to. So the guys offshore, they purchase programs developed by the ITOs to develop their own packages and itineraries to sell on. And they generally cover things like transport, accommodation, tours and attractions. Then we've got the online travel agents. So we're talking about before Flight Centre. It's also the last minute sites, like lastminute.com, What If, Need It Now, that sort of thing. Then you've got the websites such as Flight Centre, JetSet, those sort of established retailers and wholesalers who also want to have an online section. And then you've got the e-travel companies where you can purchase some product already packaged, Expedia, Travelocity, that sort of thing. I'm sure most of you guys are pretty aware of those sort of packaged opportunities. And then the ITOs, so their job is to promote and sell the Australian travel packages. So the people in the room that are suppliers, they're your main point of contact to try and get your product exposure and part of a package overseas. They can also provide advice on the product price and availability, and that's a great thing that they can offer you. They can actually help you work out how your product fits in the international marketplace, give you advice for travel arrangements, consultation for itinerary planning, escorts, guides, translators, all that sort of stuff. So they're a really good resource to have, not only to promote your product, but also to help you work out where your package fits in that marketplace. So this is the world that was sort of pre-internet. Remember those days, some of you? Customer walks into a retailer, they want to purchase a ticket to Australia and they want to get a package. So the retailer's got a great package that was put together by their wholesaler, which was put together by their ITO, and that includes your product at the end of the line. With that comes a variety of commissions. I'm not going to go into commission structure today. It's something that you guys can talk to your mentors about. It's really, it's not tricky, but it's just something to talk to someone about and really get into the detail of it. This is the model that we're now all lucky enough to be a part of, where everyone can buy from everyone, sort of thing. So you've got the product down here now, and they can sell into the ITO, they can go online to the wholesaler or to a traditional wholesaler, online retailer, traditional retailer, or some of them just go straight to the customer as well. So we've got all these opportunities now to engage with the consumer and engage with wholesalers in a whole different manner, which is exciting because it creates more opportunity for your product. But one of the things you've got to be aware of is what is the best distribution method for you. Like don't suddenly think I'm going to cut out all my commissions, I'm going to get all my business online through my website, because it's not going to happen. You're not going to get the consumer knocking on your door. You'll get some consumers, but you'll miss out on the whole different sectors of like the group visitor and the education visitor in some sectors as well. So these slides will be distributed to you guys so that you can actually look at some of the detail behind it, and there's also some more information on our website that sort of goes through the distribution models in a bit more detail, and TA's actually got a great resource on their website as well. I'm not going to remember what it's called, International Market Ready Guide, or Yvonne?
Protocols or local marketing perspectives?
No, you've got one just on the international, becoming export ready, that sort of thing. Anyway, I'll find a link and I'll send it out with the stuff tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, which, Glenn?
Planning for inbound success.
Yes, that's the one, yeah. So we've talked about some of the reasons of working with an ITO. couple of the main reasons as well is that it's a great way to get into a new market. So if you're working in the UK and then you actually want to start working and to attract some of the Chinese, and you go into the Chinese ITOs, you work out how your package can work within it, and that then helps you open up to that marketplace. Especially within the Chinese market, that's the way that they do business, and to be engaged within that marketplace, that's one of the best ways to do it. As I said before, visit the ATEC website and you can see a whole list of all the people, the ITOs and the OTAs. Other reasons, it extends obviously your marketing and sales because other people are now talking about your product to the wholesalers. Provides volume of business, opportunities to grow your business, and they also give you that knowledge of the international markets. What are they looking for from you guys as suppliers? Understanding and respect for the distribution network. They really want you to know how it works and what the position that they're in when they're then dealing with the wholesalers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So having a good knowledge of those channels of distribution is really important. Honesty and commercial integrity, obviously. Understanding of the consequences of short-term deals. That don't say, okay, for this month I'm going to give you this at $70 and then next month it's going to be $100 and the month after that it's going to be $200. Be consistent with your pricing to make sure that you don't just give them this sort of expectation that your product can be cheapened. Recognition and appreciation of the added values of the ITOs. What they want is access of staff to discuss special needs. So if they've got a client coming in who's in a wheelchair, they want to be able to pick up the phone and talk to you straight away and make sure that something like that is accessible. They don't want you to act on complaints immediately, so if they've had a consumer who's had a bad experience at your product, they really need your help to make sure that that's dealt with. Consistent year-round product, of course, that's important so that they can sell it year-round. You don't want to just be really good in summer. You want to be able to get in their packages whenever you can get in their packages. They want to go on for meals. So for those of you who have got the ability to take the ITOs to your product and experience that, it's a fantastic way of getting them to know it better. And a lot of them now are looking for that uniqueness. You know, it's not just about coming to Australia and seeing the Opera House. Some of them now are really targeted to niche markets, and they really want to have that unique offering to sell offshore. So big question, how you actually gain distribution. Some of the larger ITOs have got product development teams, so they're the guys that will come out and see your product. They're the best people to talk to about getting your product involved in their itineraries. Organise product presentations, do sales calls, and if you're going to do sales calls, make sure you do them. Never ever say that you can't make it unless it's an absolute emergency. Turn up, have your presentation ready, make sure you respect their time, because a lot of them are very short-staffed, and if they've given you the time to have your product shown in front of them, make sure you're there and make sure you follow up. That's one of the biggest things. Work with your local tourism body, so work with the guys at DNSW and their team, work with the guys at TA and their team. If you're in a regional area, work with the RTO to work out what they're doing to market their product to the ITOs as well, and when they're getting the ITOs in region, because sometimes some of the STOs might have a group coming in from Sydney. If you're based in SA, they might bring the people in. You should know when they're coming in so that you can make sure that you can meet with them. So basically, if you want to have your product effectively distributed in the international market, you can't avoid working with distributors. They're a valuable part of the distribution process for the overseas wholesaler and yourself. And you just really need to understand, what I was talking about before, the rapid changes in the market, and make sure that you don't put all your eggs in one basket, and understand how your product can be distributed to the consumer. Any questions? Nah. Okay, awesome, because that's actually all I know anyway. So if you ask me one more thing, I'd probably have to go to the room. But the last thing I want to talk about is just quickly LinkedIn. So I'll get everyone to stand up. So just, first of all, this should be a pretty easy one. First of all, sit down if you don't have a LinkedIn profile. Good work. This is awesome. If you asked that at an ATEC conference, heaps of people would sit down. Who has a photo that has been updated in the past 12 months? If you haven't updated your photo in the past 12 months, sit down. I learned this the hard way because I I started ATEC, like I said, 10 months ago. My LinkedIn profile still has me with long hair. And everyone was checking me out to work out who is this new person at ATEC. And then no one would recognise me because I cut all my hair off. So anyway, so good tip. Who's a member of more than one group on LinkedIn? Sit down if you're not a member of more than one group. One networking group, one interesting tourism group, something like that. Still got a few standing. Who's actually posted a status update in a group? Who's actually gone into that group and engaged? Wow, good work. Last question. You guys all had a networking session last week. Has anyone connected with anyone else that's still standing up? You have? Wish I had a prize. Okay, maybe we do. We do. We're a winner. Basically, it's not an apple. It's not basically, there are just some things I just want to, like, it's just a really good example of working out how you can actually actively engage within LinkedIn. Do you want to give it to Katie? Yeah.
Oh, wait, I'll read this way.
Cool. So that's, like, basically think of LinkedIn as, one of my friends talks, that if Facebook's a barbecue, then LinkedIn is a networking event. You know what I mean? So Facebook's for your friends and your family, it's for fun time. LinkedIn, it's about professionalism, it's about making connections. One of the things that we'll do as part of this group is we've actually set up a ATEC LinkedIn National Development Program group. So you guys will be invited to join in on that, all the mentors are going to be invited to join on that, and all of the presenters as well. And this is a great way just to engage in a small section, ask questions, really get engaged with it. We'll be putting some tasks up there as well. This is the idea of looking at the potential that is LinkedIn and making sure you understand it and are engaged in it. A couple of bits of advice for your profile. Don't say too much, don't give everything about you away. Just an exact summary of what you're doing in your career and what you've done in the past. Ask people for endorsements. If you've worked with a really good colleague or if you've had a great referral from someone else on your product, just ask them to put a few notes down about what it was like dealing with you. People like referrals. Why do you think people ask for references when you have a job? People want to hear from people that have been involved with you. Keep your profile current. As soon as someone types your name into Google, it's generally the first thing that comes out unless you've done something spectacular in your career. And it generally will be the first thing that people will look at. Join groups, and if you're really interested in that sector of that group, post stuff in it, get involved, make a bit of a name for yourself, and use it to connect. LinkedIn's got a great way of connecting. You know, you can send the standard invite, I'd like to invite you to connect. If you can personalise it, personalise it. Just like, if you met someone, write in, it was lovely to meet you at this event, can we connect on LinkedIn? Don't just use the standard, Jemma still would like to connect. Like, it's pretty boring. Give yourself a bit of flair, write something a bit exciting, talk about why you met or why you want to connect.